number one reason people do not do nonlinear video game design in most games is because it adds exponential amounts of work for every branch in the story that you create. If you want everybody in the game world to react to that choice you made, that basically doubles your workload, because you have to write double the audio lines. If you aren't really smart about how you set everything up, you have to do double the scripting work, and it really can become a quagmire very quickly, which is why I think Mass Effect, especially Mass Effect 3, seriously cut back the endings. Like, the complaint was you have the blue pill ending or the red pill ending, but really all it is just a difference in color. And it's really just the exact same ending no matter what you do. And there's a good reason for that. They probably had a big grand plan. They probably had really cool stuff they were trying to do, but got to a point in development where it was the point of no return. They were running out of time, and something had to go. And that something probably ended up being the ending. Because audio, the voice over stuff, is a huge budget, and it usually comes toward the end of a project. So if you have a bunch of different endings and they're kind of half working at the time, or they require a bunch of additional assets, or they require a bunch of different animations and cutscenes and special effects and sound effects and voiceover, then that's a big budget item to cut. So I don't know exactly why they went so simple with their endings, but I can understand why. It cuts a lot of work. So yeah, it was really cool starting out as my first game working on Alpha Protocol, because that was probably like a worst case scenario for reactivity that you could ever hope for. And I use worst case as in not a bad thing, more a difficult thing. It wasn't bad in that the game was bad, it was bad in that the amount of reactivity you had to track in order to get, I think it was like 16 or 32 different endings based on what choices you made throughout the game. All of those had different cutscenes, or at least some changes to the cutscenes, and it was just nuts. Like, just a sheer crazy amount of scripting. My friend Tyson Christensen, who's the lead on Armored Warfare, was the lead on that project, and the amount of work we had to do in Kismet to script everything out, like even just every mission, depending on the intel you took, there were completely separate branches of Kismet code that you could unlock based on what you bought or choices you'd made or allies you'd picked up, and that very quickly just stacks up. It just becomes more and more work. So that game, while it didn't have a gigantic team, we had a lot of really good scripters on that team, and veteran developers. Like Charlie Staples, I think, was the level lead, and he did a great job. He's also the, I think, systems lead on Armored Warfare. He's going to be on the live stream too. So we've got a really good group of developers at Obsidian who really understand nonlinear writing, which is also a whole separate skill. Got to think about conversations. It's like that. If you're sitting down to talk to somebody, like say a boss for an interview or something, and you're running all of these different possible outcomes and possible lines of conversation that you'll have with this person through your head, that is what we have to do except actually make it work and play through all of those lines in a sensible manner so that it actually makes sense. I mean, you don't want to just have like a smattering of lines with one-line responses and then you go through each of those one by one. No, this needs to chain together in a sensible conversation that doesn't sound idiotic as you're playing through it. So you really have to have a special kind of brain to piece all of these puzzle pieces together and make it flow like one big spider web of gameplay. It's not easy, but if you've got the brain for it, it's not insanely difficult. I'm just gonna put it back here. But it is very entertaining to work on and very challenging. So, totally worthwhile. And fun. I hope this person doesn't like turn into my car as they're backing out. So, nonlinear game design. Yeah, I'll talk more about this later, but that should give you just a little inkling of why people don't do it. And especially big games like the AAA games. You're not going to see a lot of choices in the Call of Duty game because those games are already so gigantic art-wise. To have whole separate areas that you can go through based on your choices would just rack up even more time, and those guys are already working probably 60-80 hours a week. So if you have any questions about nonlinear game design, I'd be happy to answer them, and I would be glad to do Q&A videos later on based on questions I've gotten. So feel free to shoot away, and I'll see you next time.